Turia Pitt was born in 1987 in Tahiti, but her family soon settled in Australia, where she grew up with the sun, sea, and rugged landscapes of New South Wales shaping her childhood. From the very beginning, Turia had a fire in her spirit. She wasn't the kind of girl who accepted limitations easily. She loved adventure, she loved challenges, and above all, she loved proving people wrong. As a child, she was energetic, curious, and always chasing the horizon. She excelled in school and pushed herself in sports, showing not just talent but an unstoppable drive. Friends and teachers alike noticed that she never did things halfway. If there was a competition, she wanted to win. If there was a problem, she wanted to solve it. By the time she entered university, Turia had her eyes on two paths: engineering and athletics. She studied mining engineering, determined to carve out a career in a tough, male-dominated field. At the same time, she modeled, trained, and embraced the outdoors. Running, hiking, and endurance challenges thrilled her. Life was unfolding beautifully: a rewarding career, a strong relationship with her partner Michael Hoskin, and the excitement of pushing her physical and mental boundaries. Turia seemed unstoppable, living the kind of life most young people only dreamed about. But sometimes, fate has other plans. In 2011, during a race across the Australian outback, her world changed in a way no one could have ever imagined. Running wasn't just a hobby for Turia, it was freedom. She felt most alive when her feet pounded against the earth, when her lungs burned with effort, and when her mind entered that state of pure focus. Endurance racing was her passion because it tested not only strength, but grit. And grit was something she had in abundance. That's why in September 2011, at the age of 24, she signed up for an ultramarathon in Western Australia's Kimberley region. It wasn't an easy race, far from it. The Kimberley is one of the most remote, rugged, and unforgiving landscapes on the planet. The terrain is harsh, the heat brutal. But for Turia, that was the appeal. She wanted the challenge. She wanted to prove to herself that she could conquer it. By then, she had already built an impressive life. She was working as a mining engineer, earning respect in a field where few women tread. She balanced her career with athletics and even modeling opportunities, admired for her beauty as much as her strength. To the outside world, she was the perfect picture of success: young, ambitious, talented, and deeply in love with her boyfriend Michael. The future stretched wide open before her. As she lined up for the ultramarathon that fateful September morning, she had no way of knowing how drastically her life was about to change. The race that was supposed to test her endurance would instead become a battle for her life. The ultramarathon started like any other. Dozens of runners set off across the Kimberley, their eyes fixed on the finish line. The sun blazed down, the air thick with heat. Turia pushed forward, her focus sharp, her determination strong. She had trained for this moment, and nothing could break her stride. But then, something unimaginable happened. Somewhere ahead, a grass fire had broken out. Fed by the dry landscape and fierce winds, the flames spread with terrifying speed. Within minutes, runners were trapped. There was no clear way out. Panic surged as smoke and fire consumed the course. Turia, along with several others, was caught in the inferno. The flames engulfed her, burning through her clothes, her skin, her body. In an instant, her world went dark, replaced by unbearable pain and chaos. She collapsed, fighting for her life as the fire swallowed everything around her. When rescuers finally reached her, the damage was almost beyond comprehension. Turia had suffered burns to 65% of her body. Her face, hands, and much of her body were severely injured. She lost 7 fingers, endured massive smoke inhalation, and hovered on the edge of death. Doctors didn't expect her to survive the night. But Turia Pitt was not ordinary. Even as her body lay broken, her spirit refused to give in. The fire had taken her skin, her appearance, and nearly her life. But it had not taken her will to fight. And that will would carry her through one of the most extraordinary comebacks the world has ever seen. When Turia was airlifted from the Kimberley ultramarathon site, her body was so badly burned that doctors gave her almost no chance of survival. Her burns covered 65% of her body, so severe that even highly trained specialists doubted she would make it through the night. The damage was catastrophic: her skin destroyed, her fingers charred, her face unrecognizable. She was placed in a medically induced coma. Machines breathed for her. Surgeons worked frantically to save what they could. Every hour was a battle. Her family was warned to prepare for the worst. But Turia's will was stronger than any statistic. She refused to let the fire be the end of her story. Over the next 2 years, she underwent more than 200 surgeries. Skin grafts were taken from what little healthy skin remained. Doctors painstakingly rebuilt parts of her body, replacing burned flesh with grafts, repairing muscle, and fighting infection after infection. Each procedure carried risk. Each day was agony. She wore a full-body compression suit and mask for years, 23 hours a day, to help her skin heal and reduce scarring. She endured endless rounds of therapy just to relearn basic functions. Something as simple as moving her hand or walking a few steps became monumental challenges. Yet through it all, Turia clung to life with a ferocity that stunned her doctors. Every breath was proof of her determination. Every heartbeat was defiance against the odds. The fire had ravaged her body, but it could not extinguish her spirit. Recovery was not a straight path, it was a mountain climb with no clear summit. The physical pain was excruciating, but the emotional toll cut even deeper. When Turia first saw her reflection after the fire, her face bandaged, scarred, and swollen, she barely recognized herself. The vibrant, athletic young woman she once was seemed lost. The weight of despair threatened to crush her. But Turia refused to let self-pity take over. She cried, yes. She broke down, yes. But each time, she picked herself back up. This isn't the end, she told herself. It's the beginning of a new fight. Daily therapy sessions tested her resilience. She relearned how to walk, how to use her hands, how to live in a body that had been forever changed. Every movement was painful, but every small step forward became a victory. Support poured in from family, friends, and strangers around the world. Letters arrived from people she had never met, telling her how much her courage inspired them. But perhaps the greatest source of strength came from one person, her partner, Michael Hoskin. While many would have walked away from such overwhelming tragedy, Michael stood firmly by her side. He shaved his head in solidarity when her hair fell out. He held her hand, even when her hands were bandaged and burned. He whispered words of love when she felt unlovable. With Michael's unwavering support, Turia found the strength to endure the unendurable. Slowly, painfully, she began to rebuild her life, not just her body, but her sense of self. Turia's love story with Michael Hoskin is one of the most powerful aspects of her journey. They had been together since they were teenagers, long before the fire. And when tragedy struck, Michael made a choice: he would not leave. He sold his home to help pay for her medical expenses. He became her caretaker, her motivator, her constant reminder that she was still the woman he loved. At a time when Turia questioned her worth, Michael reminded her daily that beauty is not in flawless skin, but in the courage of the heart. I was in love with her soul, he said, and her soul didn't change. Together, they redefined love. It wasn't about glamorous dates or picture-perfect appearances. It was about holding hands through the darkest nights, about choosing each other every single day, no matter the circumstances. Michael's devotion gave Turia the foundation she needed to fight harder. She wasn't just surviving for herself, she was fighting for their future together. And as the years passed, their bond only grew stronger. In 2015, Michael proposed to Turia, slipping a diamond ring onto one of the few fingers she still had. It wasn't just a proposal, it was a declaration. A promise that no fire, no scar, no obstacle would ever break the love they shared. Their story became a symbol of hope for millions, proving that true love doesn't fade in the face of tragedy, it becomes unbreakable. And with that love supporting her, Turia was ready to face her next chapter, reclaiming her strength and stepping back into the world. 4 years, Turia's life revolved around hospitals, therapy rooms, and endless surgeries. But deep inside, she was still the same woman who had once run ultramarathons, climbed mountains, and chased adventure. Slowly, she began to rediscover that side of herself. Her first milestones were small, walking unaided, lifting light weights, swimming again. Each achievement built her confidence. The more she pushed her body, the more she realized that the fire had changed her appearance, but not her determination. Turia refused to let her scars define her. Instead, she embraced them. They became symbols of survival, of strength, of resilience. When strangers stared, she didn't shrink away, she stood taller. Yes, this is me, she thought, and I am stronger than ever. She began setting bigger goals. First, short runs. Then longer ones. Soon, she was training for endurance events once again. The idea of competing, of returning to the world she had loved before the fire, wasn't just a dream anymore, it was a mission. Through sweat, pain, and relentless effort, Turia transformed her body into an instrument of determination once more. And with every step, she proved to herself and to the world, the fire had taken her skin, but it had not taken her spirit. In 2016, just 5 years after doctors doubted she would even survive, Turia Pitt accomplished something extraordinary. She competed in the Ironman World Championship in Hawaii. The Ironman is one of the toughest endurance races on Earth, a 3.8 kilometers swim, a 180 kilometers bike ride, and a full 42 kilometers marathon run, all in a single day. For most athletes, it is nearly impossible. For a woman who had lost fingers, endured over 200 surgeries, and relearned how to walk, it was unimaginable. But Turia never cared about impossible. She trained relentlessly, pushing through pain, fatigue, and self-doubt. On race day, she stood among the world's toughest athletes, ready to prove once again that the only limits that matter are the ones we set ourselves. The race was brutal. The sun scorched, the hills punished, and every muscle in her body screamed for rest. But Turia pressed on. Stroke by stroke in the ocean. Pedal by pedal on the bike. Step by step on the marathon run. When she crossed the finish line, exhausted but triumphant, she became more than an athlete. She became a symbol of what the human spirit can achieve. The crowd roared, tears flowed, and Turia smiled a smile that told the world, I am unbreakable. Turia's journey didn't stop at the finish line. She had become a global voice for resilience, courage, and hope. Her story touched millions, not just athletes, but anyone who had ever faced hardship. She became a motivational speaker, standing before audiences around the world, sharing her story of survival and triumph. People who walked into her talks feeling broken walked out believing in themselves again. She wrote best-selling books, opening her heart about pain, love, and perseverance. She raised millions for charity, supporting burn survivors and communities in need. She ran programs to empower women, showing them how to reclaim their confidence and chase their dreams. Her work wasn't just about telling her story, it was about reminding people of their own strength. She often said, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I want them to look at their own lives and realize they are capable of more than they think. In 2018, she became a mother, adding another layer to her identity. To her children, she wasn't a burn survivor or an Ironman competitor, she was simply mum. And perhaps that was her greatest victory of all. Turia Pitt's story is not one of tragedy, it is one of triumph. She took the most devastating moment of her life and transformed it into a platform for hope. Her scars, once seen as reminders of pain, became symbols of resilience. Her story, once about survival, became about thriving. She taught the world that true beauty lies in courage, that love can endure anything, and that the human spirit can rise from the ashes of even the fiercest flames. Today, Turia continues to inspire millions through her books, speeches, and humanitarian work. She lives by a powerful truth: life will throw challenges at you, sometimes unimaginable ones. But it is not the challenge that defines you, it is how you rise from it. Turia Pitt rose. She ran. She conquered. And she showed the world that nothing, not fire, not scars, not pain, can stop a soul that refuses to give up. Her legacy is clear: you don't need a perfect life to achieve greatness. You just need the courage to keep going.